So Darkwatch is definitely one of those hidden gems on the PlayStation 2 that not a lot of people might remember if you ask them. It's a game that came out in 2005, it was developed by High Moon Studios, and was published by Capcom. Basically, the moral of the story is that your character's name is Jericho Cross, you're an outlaw gunfighter fighting through the 19th century Weird West, which is kind of a combination between the Wild West and horror steampunk genre. And basically you get turned into a vampire and forcibly join this group called the Darkwatch, which is out fighting monsters and supernatural forces. Now the game plays very much like Halo Combat Evolved, which is a very popular Microsoft game, as all of you might know. But the game does do a very good job of masking those similarities by bringing its own unique features. So you get your standard style of weapons that you see in most first-person shooter games. You get like standard pistol, you get dual pistols, you get a rifle, you get shotgun, you get a sniper rifle, you get a rail rocket launcher, which is essentially this really cool rocket launcher gun. You get a crossbow as well, which is also a really cool thing. And you get some throwing weapons like dynamite and splitter grenades. And all the weapons serve a really good purpose. You can use them in any combat scenario. I didn't find myself not using one weapon less than another one. I found I was using all the weapons and they all worked out really well, and they were all really well crafted. As well, you've got melee attacks, which are designated to the square button on the PlayStation 2. Melee attacks are really strong, especially when dealing with some of the weakest enemies in the game. Sometimes it takes one hit to kill most of the enemies. And so on the PlayStation 2 controller, you've got the directional pad using up and down to cycle between two weapons. You can only hold up to two weapons at a time, so you got to kind of pick and choose which ones you think would work best for a certain level or a certain mission that you're going on. As well, there's one instance in the game where it plays out very much like a traditional Halo driving simulator, where you're driving this vehicle that you can also shoot, and the controls are very identical to that of Halo Combat Evolved. So of course it's really easy to get into the controls if you've played Halo. Using the control sticks, the left and right control sticks to move around and to shoot with the R1 stick as well. Also, there are instances in the game between levels when you're trying to raid a train. You're going to be doing a lot of horseback riding as well, which is a really fun feature in the game. And this is actually the first instance I've noticed where Jericho, the character, can use his horse to act as a shield to enemies on the train who are firing bullets at him. So leaning left or right using the directional pad, you can lean to the right so that the horse takes most of your bullets, and thankfully the horse doesn't die. So it's a really smart way to at least save a lot of your health while also getting back up and shooting those enemies down. So I was surprised to find that there was a ton of enemy types in this game, a lot more than I thought there would be, because there's a lot of games that don't usually show a lot of enemy types. You start off with the traditional bone demons. You go up to a gunslinger looking enemy, which kind of looks like a traditional cowboy with a redeemer, which is one of the weapons in the game, which is a pistol. And then you move into some very interesting variations of enemies, like you've got kind of a boomer style enemy, which is this big fat kind of busty looking enemy with two machetes, which is kind of really cool. There's a banshee, which is kind of this scary woman in a dress who floats around and shoots this kind of poisonous gas at you. You've got this shotgun wielding witch hat looking dude, which is also very cool. He's also very easy to take down. Then you've got this really Nightcrawler style enemy called the Viper, which he runs right at you. He doesn't necessarily use a weapon, he uses his claws, but if you shoot at him enough, he starts to teleport back and forth, so you gotta kind of shoot accordingly to wherever he moves. So I felt the game's only letdown was in its character development to an extent, a little bit also tied to the story. I felt a lot of it was kind of rushed. The game, from start to finish, may have only been about 6 to 8 hours. It kind of depends on how fast you play it. But the only real character development came from the main female characters, Cassidy and Tala, who act as sort of a good side, bad side to Jericho as he moves forward in his story. And also it reflects in the end game, because there is actually two different paths that you can take, and you get two different results in the end, which I thought was a very interesting way of finishing the game. So overall, the game was a roller coaster ride from start to finish. Every level was really fun to play, and there was the enemy types, the horseback riding, the vehicular driving, the weaponry, just the fighting in the game was probably top notch. It was really good for this game. And it sucks because this game had so much potential to see a sequel, and it never ended up happening. A sequel was planned, but now it's kind of in development hell, and since then High Noon has been working on so many games like the Transformers series, and recently Deadpool, which just came out. And also, much like the pacing of Halo, which this game is very reminiscent of, it's kind of a darker version of Halo. Your character is very much like Master Chief, where he kind of starts the game very overpowered once he becomes a vampire, and you know, you're as strong as most of the enemies, but it all relies on how you pace yourself throughout the game. If you rush in, you're bound to get yourself killed because there's going to be waves and waves of enemies coming after you. But if you pace yourself, then you will be able to take out everyone that comes in your path. So overall, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. It is definitely a must-buy. It's a great game to add to your collection. And if you are a fan of the Wild West or the steampunk genre or any sort of horror vampire stories, this game is definitely one for you because it's got everything that you need. So this has been William Key with GTA Gamers, giving you a nice quickie review of the game Darkwatch. I'll see you guys around.